What's up, you guys? I'm Rachel DeMita, and welcome to the Courtside Club. Gear up, because today I have another long episode for you guys. I hope you don't mind, because I am planning on doing one of these longer episodes every single week. So hopefully you guys enjoy them. And with all of that, grab your snacks, grab your drinks, grab your cats, and let's jump right in. To start this episode, I wanted to share a tweet that came across my timeline. And it said, "Do y'all still care about the W as much as you did at the start of the season?" Serious question. So I want to point this question to you guys. Do y'all still care about the WNBA as much as you did at the start of the season? We've talked about it plenty of times. I feel like the hype coming into this WNBA season is the greatest hype that we have seen in the WNBA. And I predicted at the beginning of the season that this was going to be the biggest year that the WNBA has ever seen. Now, as we are gearing up to go into playoffs, I feel like some of that hype has actually died. And this is the time where it should be, my cat's about to knock over my light. Stormy, I said grab your cats. Don't let them knock over your equipment. Anyway, I was reading some of the replies to this tweet, and they were actually quite interesting. And the top reply said, "Sad to say, but no. I wish I did, but all these injuries deflated my excitement." And that got me to thinking about the injuries this season, because there have been so many. There specifically have been so many with the Indiana Fever, which is the team that has had the most spotlight on them. They have had 5 season-ending injuries with Caitlin, Chloe Bibby, Sophie Cunningham, Sid Colson, and Ari McDonald. We saw their team picture at the end of the season, and they have exponentially more players than they did to start the season. There's been such this spotlight on the injuries in the WNBA, and ironically enough, you guys, I was actually just interviewed by a mainstream media outlet who was doing this whole article about injuries in the WNBA. I'm really curious to see what quotes of mine they use and how they spin the story, because you kind of never know doing interviews like that. But I will definitely share the article when it comes out. But this reporter was just asking me my opinions on it, how I think it could be better, what could change, do the referees have anything to do with it, is it roster size? I think that's a lot of it. And it's one of the things this season, you guys, physicality, referees, injuries have been some of the biggest themes of this season. And I think there's multiple reasons for that. One, there's such a spotlight on the WNBA that we haven't seen before. And so obviously, with all of these new eyeballs watching, a lot of people are watching the product and they're saying, this is crazy. It's overtly physical. The league prides itself in physicality. The refs are kind of inconsistent in the way that they call the games. People have been injured because of the physicality. The wear and tear can't be good. So there's a lot of just more eyeballs on the W. So obviously, there's going to be more people talking about different things that they see. One other thing that I want to mention with the injuries, there are only 150 WNBA players in the league, as opposed to the NBA that has 450 players, as opposed to the NFL, who even have obviously bigger roster sizes, and they have an offensive team and a defensive team. Like, injuries are something that can never be avoided. There's always going to be injuries, and unfortunately, there's going to be injuries to the top players in the league. When you talk about this season in the NBA, you had Jason Tatum go down, you had Tyrese Halliburton go down literally in the finals. So some injuries are not going to be avoided. However, when you have the WNBA and you have a small group of players who are bringing most of the eyeballs, obviously Caitlin Clark being that number one domino, that biggest domino, like when she fell, when it was confirmed that she would not be playing for the rest of the season, I think a lot of people tuned out from that. When she wasn't playing for a stretch of the games, people tuned out a little bit. I think that that's fair to say. We saw the viewership numbers drop 50% the first time that she got injured. Now, I will say there has been some fans who have said, you know, obviously they've lost a lot of interest, but there have been some high points of the season that I do want to point out. One of those high points being the Golden State Valkyries. No one could have ever expected an expansion team to do what they did this season, and they're in the playoffs. They have sold out all 22 of their home games. Head coach Natalie Nakase is up for Coach of the Year. She is my choice. If I had a vote, I would vote for her as Coach of the Year. They've just been a team that is so exciting to watch. They play an exciting brand of basketball. So that is really like a bright light in the WNBA this season. I think another shining light in the WNBA this season, and some people feel completely opposite than I do on this, is the Indiana Fever and just the resilience that they've shown. I think for some Fever fans, it's hard not to live in this little like silo of, oh my gosh, everything is bad, everyone's getting hurt, Coach Steph White, like, what is she doing? What is the front office doing? Why did they sign this person? You can live in this little bubble of just straight negativity, but if you kind of take yourself out of it and look at all of the things that they have overcome, I think that's something that we should be propping that up a little bit. That's something that you should be excited about. And they also won the Commissioner's Cup, you guys, which is kind of crazy. They won the Commissioner's Cup against the Minnesota Lynx with Nafisa Collier playing in that game. Like, the Minnesota Lynx had a full roster and the Indiana Fever won that game. Some insider information, I actually heard that they had the champagne set up in front of the Lynx locker room. Like, that is how much the league expected the Minnesota Lynx to win that game, and to win that game easily, especially with the Indiana Fever having all the injuries that they had and not having Caitlin Clark on the floor. So there's been a lot of little wins with this Indiana Fever team. Maybe it's not the contention season, the now you know season, but who knows? I guess anything can happen in playoffs. So I wanted to highlight them. And then lastly, the All-Star game in itself, we talked about it. The All-Star game in itself was pretty bad. Like, can't even lie. But All-Star weekend was truly a high point in this WNBA season. I think the Stud Buds were a big part of that. The Stud Buds kind of opened the curtain and gave you a more inside look, like a backstage look at players and how they interact with one another off the court. There has been just so much tension within the media, on social media, with certain fandoms like fighting, and it sounds so juvenile, but it's the reality of the situation. And then when they kind of just gave you a little insider look at how these players interact and how much fun that they were having at All-Star, how Indiana is not this dangerous place that's so ominous and players can't even travel there because the fans there are racist and hateful and all these things. Like, I feel like that was also a high point in the season. So I wanted to point out those things and just remember that maybe when we're looking back on this season. Now, with all of that, I do want to talk about the playoffs. They are just around the corner. And when this video goes live, it will be right before the Indiana Fever play their last game against the Minnesota Lynx. But all signs are pointing to the Indiana Fever securing the 7 seed in the playoffs. And I actually found this bracket on Bleacher Report. And it's kind of a mock-up of what is likely to happen for the playoffs. You have Minnesota playing Seattle in the first round. Then you have the Mercury versus the Liberty first round, which I think that matchup is likely going to be cinema. And then you have the Indiana Fever playing Atlanta and the Aces playing the Golden State Valkyries. I kind of love the way that this is mapped out. Say the Fever get through the first round, which will be tough. It's going to be a tough matchup, whether it's Atlanta or the Aces, because A'ja Wilson has just been going ballistic lately. She's going to be very hard to guard. My prediction at this point in time, I actually think the Aces are going to make the finals, which is crazy because I thought they were horrible at the beginning of the season. I was like, there is no way this team does anything. They were getting blown out by monster numbers, by multiple teams. Even the Indiana Fever blew them out. I'm going to make a bold prediction. I'm going to make a spicy prediction. I think it's going to be Aces Liberty. Is that crazy? Is that really crazy to say? The New York Liberty at 5. I know that they've been peaking at the wrong time, but I feel like there's just some sort of energy that you get during playoffs, and I could see them being in the final. So you guys obviously let me know your predictions as well. Now I want to pivot a little bit and talk about Unrivaled, talk about the CBA negotiations, the timeline of all of these things. There were some new announcements that just came out, and this news was announced on September 8th. So just 7 months after the conclusion of its inaugural season, Unrivaled said it has been valued at $340 million. Some of the biggest headlines throughout this entire season are the CBA negotiations. They wore the shirts at All-Star, pay us what you owe us. From what we have heard from so many players, because they've been very outspoken, they have given us a lot of information about these talks. Things are not going well. The league and the players still seem to be bumping heads and not able to come to an agreement on these CBA negotiations. Now, the deadline ends on October 31st. They can't extend it, but you guys, it just gets really tricky. And I think the timing of Unrivaled announcing this is all strategic. They could have announced this at literally any other time. They are doing it as a negotiation tactic. We have also heard from players that the WNBA does not want players to play in Unrivaled, and they don't want them to play in overseas leagues. I have been one who has said from the beginning, I just don't see how these two leagues coexist. I don't see how they coexist if both of them are successful. At the end of the day, Unrivaled is a competitor league to the WNBA. You don't see it in any other pro sports. Now, the WNBA is different because they have a shorter season. They haven't been able to pay the players so much throughout the years. So players have supplemented their income by playing in off-season leagues. However, the players are now able to make so much more money in marketing deals, doing different things. And the WNBA, as of what was reported, has offered them 4 times the salary that they were receiving. Now, they turned that down and they're still saying that it's not enough money. I did want to show you guys a clip that I saw from an interview that Gabby Williams did.
Do you think there is a way forward where both things can exist?
Yes and no. I think the direction that the league is going in, I think it's going to ultimately be similar to the men's, where you only need to play one season. And I think that's the goal for everybody. I don't think we want to play both seasons, but the WNBA isn't enticing enough as far as money goes in order to keep us out of the other leagues. So, yeah, it just doesn't make sense right now to not do both for a lot of players when the league isn't paying as much as their competitors. I'll call them competitors are. So hopefully if the league wants to continue to have everybody and keep all these players here, yeah, they're going to have to spend the money.
How do you think overall things are going with those talks? I know we're obviously in the season, but that is something that is looming for sure.
Yeah, I think the league hopefully now understands the leverage that we have, saying that what their competitors are paying us versus what they're paying us. So I think once the league understands that this isn't, the WNBA isn't all we have as far as options, but we do want to be here, that hopefully they will pay us what they owe us, as we've said.
And this interview honestly just confirmed everything that I was suspecting. Like, Unrivaled announcing this $340 million valuation, announcing all of the money that they have raised, because all of this money, you guys, is coming from investors. They talked about so many shareholders and investors. This round of funding also received investments from NBA players Trae Young, Franz Wagner, Mortiz Wagner. Like, they're just listing all these people. Investors for the inaugural season was Giannis Antetokounmpo, Carmelo Anthony, Steph Curry, Gino Auriemma, Coco Gauff, Don Staley, Michael Phelps. This money is all coming from investors. And they also said that the average salary of the players will remain at 6 figures. Last season, the players earned an estimated salary of $222,222. I think it's so interesting that it's 22222, because the two players that Unrivaled desperately wants to sign is Caitlin Clark and Asia Wilson, who are both number 22. Anyway, we move along. And the players all received equity in the league last year. They said moving forward, not all players will get equity, but they are going to raise their salaries even more. So that's kind of what Gabby is talking about the leverage that they have. They're saying, like, Unrivaled pays us this much, so you guys also need to pay us this much. I think it's comparing apples to oranges, because Unrivaled is a league where there's 30 some players. It's 3v3 full court. They play in this, like, in the outskirts of Miami at a gym that holds like 600 to 800 people. I guess with these new investments, they're going to add 150 more seats to the arena, but still, like, that's nowhere near the kind of arenas that they're playing in the WNBA. They don't travel. They all train under the same roof. Like, it's a fifth of the players living in one city. It's just very different. It's comparing apples to oranges. It's 3v3. It's not 5v5. And Unrivaled, in my personal opinion, is not successful without the WNBA. The Unrivaled needs the WNBA. The momentum that Unrivaled had in last season was because it came off of the momentum that the WNBA had and the viewership that the WNBA had. And when you talk about viewership, you guys, the league averaged 221,000 viewers on TNT and True TV during its first season, with the championship game between the Rose and Vinyl drawing 364,000 viewers. So this is for Unrivaled. And then last season, the WNBA averaged at least 1 million viewers and a record 22 regular season games on ESPN, at least 1 million. And then WNBA games on ION averaged 670,000 viewers in 2024, which was up 133% from the previous season. And I honestly think that a lot of those viewers went over to Unrivaled. I'm interested to see if the viewership for the rest of the playoffs is as high as it was last season. Last season, the hype, the energy, everything was so high around the W, and then that carried over into Unrivaled. Another thing that carried over into Unrivaled, and we just have to state the obvious, is that people thought basically until the 11th hour that Caitlin might be playing in Unrivaled. There were so many teasers. There was never a confirmed report that she wasn't playing. Unrivaled used to like breadcrumb, and they would share little Easter eggs and things, and they would announce what players were going to be playing for that season. And if you guys remember, they did this whole press release where there was like, we need 22 minutes of your time, take off of work. And there was all these little 22s. And so a lot of us, including myself, I'm like, are they going to announce Caitlin and Asia during this announcement? Because they said it's the biggest announcement yet. And so they basically waited until nearly the season started to say like Caitlin might be playing. There was always this hope. They talked about the messy deal that they offered her. And so I feel like a lot of people were also interested. It was the first season in Unrivaled. And what Brianna and Nafisa Collier did with Unrivaled, I think is brilliant. I think that's a great outlet for players. They don't have to go overseas. They're able to stay here and play basketball. And that was the whole goal. I also thought it was interesting in that clip that I shared with Gabby Williams is like, she knows, and she said, I think it's going to end up being like the men's, like one day we're only going to have to play in one league. What happens with Unrivaled and all of these investors when all of a sudden like it is just one league? And I've talked about the options as well. Like, does the WNBA partner with them? I guess their co-founder, Alex Basil, who's Nafisa Collier's husband, I guess he said that when they first came up with the idea, they actually went to the WNBA first, and the WNBA didn't want to partner with them. They were like, no, it's okay. Like, you can do this on your own. But the timing of all of this, I just think all of this is strategy. I think all of it's strategy. Last thing I want to point out about this announcement, there was a headline basically that said Serena Williams had invested in Unrivaled, and she came out and said this headline is inaccurate. Serena Williams, me, did not personally invest in Unrivaled. Serena Ventures, an institutional VC fund now run and managed by Beth Ferrari, whatever, invested in Unrivaled. I remain a partner at Serena Ventures, but not in an operational role. To say that Serena Williams, a person, and Serena Ventures, an institution, are one and the same is inaccurate. And she like retweeted this. I personally just thought that was interesting. That's not Unrivaled's fault. That's CNBC's fault because they used that headline like Serena Williams invests in Unrivaled. Like I said, I'd love to see Unrivaled go under the WNBA umbrella and become like a winter league, basically like NBA Summer League, but a WNBA winter league. It becomes 5-on-5 or it's a G League of sorts. Like, I don't want to see all the hard work that they put into this league just go to waste, but I don't think the two can coexist. The players are blatantly saying they can't exist, but they're using this as a tactic in the negotiations. And with the Unrivaled news that has been dropping this week, there was another article that just came out that said Unrivaled hopes to sign Caitlin Clark, but does not want to push it. So they're already starting that narrative as well. Like, they're already getting people's wheels turning. Will Caitlin play in Unrivaled? Because obviously it was announced that she's shut down for the season. So a lot of people are wondering, what is she going to do in the offseason? Is this the year that she plays in Unrivaled because she didn't play offseason basketball last season and then she was injured this year? So what is she going to do this offseason? I want to share with you guys a couple quotes from this article. So they said, Unrivaled firmly believes it's the optimal place for Clark to rehab her body and her basketball. The league's strength conditioning and recovery coach, Susan Brochart, has previously been the performance coach for the USA women's national team and could easily guide or monitor Clark's return. The league would welcome Clark's own group of trainers and physical therapists. As for the 3-on-3 style of play, Basil, a basketball performance coach himself, said Unrivaled gives any player ample reps without putting the wear and tear on your body. He also said if someone comes to us late, not just those two, we have to look at circumstances and the situation and say, is there a spot? Is there not a spot? If so, how does it work? I mean, we always have flexibility. That's the truth of it. We own all the teams, we own the league, but I don't think we're going to ruin someone else's experience who's already signed by adding a player late. So I think we're always conscious of both sides, but it's also based on the opportunity when it comes about. I think that that's BS, because I think they would literally kick someone out of the league if it meant having Caitlyn. Like, they would make space. If she said on championship day, like, I want to play in the championship, I think they would clear space for her because they realize the kind of gravitational pull that she would have. It says indications are Clark was planning to make a decision by the end of this WNBA campaign, but after announcing this week that she is out for the rest of the Fever season, the timetable may have changed. The lines of communication are certainly still wide open, especially since Clark and Collier have the same agent. But the question, if Clark delays her decision, is how long Unrivaled will wait for her, even if she's arguably the world's most popular player. I think they will always wait for her. But with all of that, like, so many people have been wondering, will Caitlyn play an Unrivaled? I personally don't think she will still. I think, and the biggest reason why I don't think she will is because it's gotten messy between the WNBA and Unrivaled. I think there's actually a higher chance that she played last season than she did this season. But with all that we're hearing, that basically Unrivaled is kind of the sticking point in these CBA negotiations. Unrivaled is the direct competitor that is making it like hard for the WNBA. In a way, Caitlyn being the face of the WNBA, it's like I also couldn't see NECA playing in Unrivaled. NECA is the president of the WNBA PA. I think it's too close to home, because fortunately and unfortunately, Unrivaled has been the league that has paid the players the most, and they've done a fantastic job of making sure players get paid. They've done a fantastic job at marketing. They've done a fantastic job at fundraising. They know how to make money, like, period. They know how to get investors to invest in their league. They know how to turn a profit. They found a way to have all these players play in one spot. It's not that expensive. It's cheap to house them, and they've gotten a lot of investors on the sports side. And so these players get paid really well. But it has gotten messy with these negotiations, and that is the sole reason why I still don't see her playing during the offseason in Unrivaled. And I think if she did play, it probably means something like went really bad in the negotiations. But I have been thinking about, what should Caitlyn do in the offseason? And here is my idea. I think Caitlyn should host her own offseason runs. This is something that is widely done in the NBA. They're called off-season runs, which is basically like professional pickup games, okay? There's Rico Hines in LA, there's some in New York, there's UCLA runs, there are runs like, again, these pickup games in Seattle where it's basically professional, mostly NBA players, some overseas players, some high-level college players who all come and they play pickup together. You've seen the clips online. It's not something where they get paid. It's not on television. A lot of times it's not live streamed. Like, you will see the clips on social media, but there's players like Kyrie, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, like, you name it. Your favorite NBA players have all played in these runs. I think if Caitlyn wanted to do something like that, plenty of players would come to play with her. Nike could host it. Nike could fund it. If players needed to be flown in, it could be a Nike runs. And I will also say, you guys, there are plenty of players who don't want to play in the offseason. I have talked to players personally who said they're not playing in the offseason. They don't want to play in the offseason. They have other things that they want to do, or they want to conserve their body. There are plenty of veterans in the league who don't want to put any extra strain on their body, and they make plenty of money doing other things. Sabrina is also a prime example of someone who played in Unrivaled, but literally half-assed it the entire time. Sabrina did not play hard in Unrivaled. She didn't. And she was even in interviews. I thought it was kind of shocking because she was like, like, all of this is just to get ready for the WNBA season, so I just have to make sure I'm staying healthy, and like essentially saying this isn't as important as my WNBA season, so you got to do what you got to do. She also missed a lot of weeks because she had other obligations with Nike, with her other partners. And so there are plenty of players who don't even care to play in off-season leagues, and maybe they just want to play organized pickup. And for these pickup games as well, like a lot of times if a high-level trainer is putting on these runs, he could be somewhat of a referee in a sense, but a lot of times the players just call their own fouls. I think that Caitlin could get a bunch of her Fever players to come do these runs with her. And again, it's 5-on-5, it's high level pickup, it's all professional players. I think it would be the perfect thing for her. It would help her ramp up in a certain way. All these players go like 80%, like 70 to 85% speed in these runs, but it's a way to get active, get your conditioning up, get that 5v5, get the little bit of physicality that you need, not the overtly physical play that you need. And also with Caitlin, like, she doesn't need more money and she doesn't need more publicity. I don't think Caitlin cares to like play in a league that's televised. I don't think she cares. I don't think she needs to be on TV, and I don't think she needs more money. She was making $100K a pop doing 30-minute speeches, like little speaking events. She was getting $100K to sit down for 20 to 30 minutes. Would it be enticing for Unrivaled to pay her $5 million to just play a couple weekends and full court 3v3? Possibly. But I think she might be thinking long term and is like, you know, the WNBA is my anchor. So maybe I just don't need this. Now with that, you guys, I did want to share with you this clip, and it's a little bit longer, but that's why we have these longer episodes, so we can do more of a deep dive. I want to share with you this clip from the podcast Mind the Game, and it is LeBron James and Steve Nash, and they're talking about off-season pickup, but I'm going to go through this and share with you my thoughts. And LeBron is somebody who's been a huge fan of Caitlin. He even commented when she announced that she was out for the season, basically saying like, you'll be back stronger than ever. He's a huge fan of hers. And, you know, Caitlin is following in his footsteps in some ways. So anyway, without further ado, let's listen to it.
When do you start playing? And like what, like in your first third of your career, first 7 years, how much did you, when did you start playing?
Playing like on 505?
Yeah.
Oh, I used to play, I mean, my first, probably my first 12, 14 years, I played all through the summer. I mean,
it's because you love to hoop.
I just love to hoop.
Yeah.
Like, I used to play outdoors. I played
same.
outdoor basketball as a pro. I had no idea how bad that was for me, but I was like,
you said that.
I fucking love ball.
Yeah.
Like, me and my friend, I go back home in the summertime, you know, back in Akron, so obviously I played for the Cavs, but I would be back in Akron. Me and my best friends, they'd come back from college. We'd get a group, we'd be playing outside.
Play outside, yeah.
Like it was nothing. The sun is beaming off the blacktop.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Like when I was at like my prime of my career, even like first 3-4 years in Phoenix, in the summer, go to the facility, you know, do all your work, play, whatever. I always wanted to shoot again.
Yeah.
So I always tried to shoot again. Like, just how efficient can I be? So in Phoenix, it's 110, 115 degrees. I would go to the park, sometimes the driveway, but I would go to like a random park because no one's gonna be there.
Right.
And I'd
not at 115.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Back then, the iPod.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I want to stop it right there because I wanted to point out that LeBron is basically talking about what I think Caitlin should do, but he was doing it, I guess, outside. LeBron says that he played the first 12 to 14 years of his career. Obviously, he's played over 20 seasons now. He played pickup during the offseason. He played 5v5. He talks about just getting his friends together and friends who play high-level college basketball. Same thing can be done for the women. That's what I'm talking about, you guys. Like, I've been at these runs. My husband has played in a ton of these runs. It's very common in the NBA. That's how these guys ramp up. So anyway, we continue. Don't do it outside, Caitlin. I'm not saying that. Don't do it outside.
And like make 200 shots, no rebounder. Just out there because I would get my own rebounds, conditioning, it's hot. It's funny you said that. Like, did you ever have like, was it like fans showing up when you're playing in the park?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So you had to kind of like be smart about it.
Yeah, we had
to
be smart about it. Yeah, for sure. We had to be very smart about it. And then I got very smart and kind of built a little full court. Outdoor court at my house in Akron. Yeah. And I would have I would have teammates come over,
runs,
you know, and my best friends, and we'd have runs in the backyard, like on the blacktop.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Like, yeah. It was.
That's great memories.
Okay, so again, it's literally my concept. It's coming to life. If you need anybody to manage it, I can help you out. He just basically, he made a private gym at his house and had his teammates and friends and college players over. Same exact thing. We continue.
And then, like, say the last 7 years, like, do you still play pickup before the season, or do you like?
Not as much.
Yeah.
No, not as much.
Yep.
You know,
just the wear and tear.
Yeah, just the
risk,
wear and tear and the risk. You know, especially like if I do it early in the season, I mean early in the off season, then I have the ability to kind of, if anything was to happen, I have the ability to recover. Right. But then it's like, but my body's still recovering early in the summer. Yeah. And then it gets to the point where like late August hits, and I'm like, do I want to risk? Right. You know, I've trained my body. I know where I'm at. I know I'm physically fit and ready to go into training camp. Do I really want to risk it? You know, so every now and then, you know, during the workouts, like I'll play, you know, one-on-one, you know, or, you know, compete versus, you know, the coaches that's there, you know, get that kind of bump, get some live reps with the coaches. They bump you off screens or they bump you in the post or things of that nature. So, yeah, but I haven't played as much 5-on-5 over the last few years.
So that first 2-3 weeks of preseason is your time to adapt to the demands of playing, to feel the bumps and bruises, the soreness, get the wind there, as you know, like
from here, you know, from low back all the way down, you're cooked.
It's
you're
like
cooked.
an adaptation process you have to go through. There's no cheating it. No matter how fit you are, no matter how much running, stairs.
Don't matter. That's when you know it's working. That's when you know it's working. When you can't feel anything from your from here all the way down, and you're like, oh my God. I can't, like, you're like, I hate getting out of shape. It's like, but I wonder how other people feel that hasn't done anything. So it's like, you know, you just try to stay tapped in.
Yeah, you got to go through that because you can't do it 12 months of the year, right? So you have to get out and get back in. You have to build up smart, especially as you get in your 30s, late 30s, 40.
For sure,
you 40. Be smart about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I thought the end of this conversation was also so interesting because LeBron says it here. And I feel like with top level players, when you talk about Asia, when you talk about Caitlin, doing an off-season league that puts them at risk for any sort of injury so close to the season is not smart. And that's what he was talking about later on in his career. He doesn't play as much 5v5 because the closer that you get to the season, if he were to get a soft tissue injury, if he were to get all these things, he doesn't have that much time to recover and then get ready for the season. But then he also talked about his ramp up process and kind of what he does for the few weeks leading into preseason. And that's what he talks about, getting those live reps and getting in with coaches, getting those physical play. And he talks about just from here down the way his body felt. And I wonder what the ramp up process was for Caitlin, because if you remember, she came into preseason injured. I wonder what happened or what the timeline of that was and kind of where that first quad injury started and how soon it was or how close it was to that preseason. Another thing that I'll note with leagues like Unrivaled, with the overseas leagues, it puts them so close to the start of the season. And that's another reason for these high tier players, for these players who are veterans, who have already put so much wear and tear on their body, there is a huge risk for injury and you're just breaking down your body because you're playing all year round. And like both of them mentioned, like I know NBA players play significantly more games than WNBA players, but I thought this was interesting and I thought it makes sense to the conversations that we're having. We have to start looking at some of the people who have been wildly successful in their careers and what they have done. I would also love to see like what Steph Curry does during his off seasons, what kind of runs he's doing, because he's playing pickup too. But anyway, I won't ramble anymore on that, but you guys let me know in the comments like what you think of my idea of Caitlin just having her CC runs, her CC Nike runs. Next, you guys, I want to go over a couple videos that I honestly just think are so funny. And I've been wanting to do a segment that's like Shaq'd in a full, but I want it to be like Rad'n in a full, but I don't have a good name for it. So if you guys have suggestions on a good name for this type of segment that we're about to do, please let me know in the comments. I am open to any suggestions, but I have just some funny videos. And honestly, I think you guys, the WNBA fans, WNBA players need to have a better sense of humor about some things. This first video is a video of Dejanay Carrington. She's on the court and she's having some sort of issue with her contact, but I want to share with you guys what the announcers had to say.
She's on the court, and I don't know if that contact is in or not, but Carrington's going to play, and it must be out.
Yes.
That contact must be out because there was no teammate there. So Collier's going to come in, but not for Carrington.
I just thought this was so funny, the comedic timing of what the commentator said. However, Dejanay didn't enjoy this. She said, home announcers being shady is crazy work. Can't lie. Anyways, pray for me, y'all. I thought this was funny because, like, Dejanay, it was You had an excuse as to why you made a bad pass. You had an excuse. Your contact was out. Moving on, I want to bring up this gem. When Temi Figbenle faked out the entire Indiana Fever team. If you watch the play here, she's dribbling down. She does a spin move on Kelsey, and then Kelsey falls to the ground after she gets the rebound. She acts like she's faking the pass out to the three-point line, and just watch the Indiana Fever team. So she spins around, gets her own rebound, fakes the pass. Bree Turner, Shea Petty, Leah Boston, just all disperse, and Temi has a wide open layup. Poor Kelsey Mitchell is still on the ground, just like, I don't know what I can do. She's like a turtle on her back. Like, I can't guard this. My whole team dispersed. Anyway, that was the game that the Golden State Valkyries shot like 80% from the three-point line in the first half. So I guess it kind of makes sense as to why they ran out to the three like that. But now here's another instance of the commentators trolling the players on the court. And this time the commentators were trolling the whole Chicago Sky team. This was wild.
Angel Reese, love those missed shot offensive board second opportunities. And if Chicago's going to beat you, that's how they are going to do it. They're going to put it up, they're going to miss, they're going to put it up again, they might miss again, but eventually they're going to get a bucket.
I honestly thought that was wild. That's how Chicago's going to beat you. They're going to miss, they're going to put it up again, they might miss again, but they'll get it back, and eventually they will score on you. Moving along, I want to react to this clip of Bryce James' poster. So as you can see, Bryce James gets the ball. He's dribbling to the hoop. It looks like he's about to poster this guy. He puts his hand on his shoulder. Everybody's like, oh, straight off the backboard. He would have postered him if the rim was at like 6.5, 7 feet. And then look at LeBron's face. LeBron's in the back like, no. That 30 seconds, that was not my son for 30 seconds. What was he doing? Next, you guys, I want to share with you this clip that went super viral. It has over 4.1 million views, and it's by Hater Report. And honestly, places like Hater Report and Brick Center, they just post lowlights or funny clips. I think some of their posts are pretty funny, but they said, look at the male practice players the LA Sparks go against. And they're basically just saying like, these are the players that the girls are going up against. And I wanted to do a little bit of research into how these practice players come about, because I remember Cam Brink talking on her podcast how the LA Sparks were holding these open auditions, like tryouts, to become a practice player. And she was a little bit nervous about it because the replies in the comments were like, can't wait to post up Cam Brink. Like, they were kind of gross. So anyway, I found this Reddit page, and somebody said, for anyone curious on how this works, I have family and friends who have done it for D1 WNBA teams. They want guys athletic enough to keep up with these girls and to show them different looks and challenge them. The guys are usually instructed to not block shots and to go about 80% depending on skill level. It's actually really neat, and it's a good way to be involved. So I actually also had male practice players when I was in college, and it is kind of fun for them. Like, for them, it's like they're getting paid. They don't get paid a lot, but they're getting paid a little bit to basically play pickup. It's like, instead of going to 24-hour fitness, they're going to play against girls. The one thing is, like, at some practices, it's like some practices you play more full speed, you play more 5v5 than others. So if you're in it to like get a solid 2-3 hours of basketball, that is not going to happen. But I did think it was interesting. And honestly, these guys have fun with it. Like, they really like it. So I wouldn't hate on these guys. I wouldn't hate on these girls. But if you are sensitive, then I wouldn't recommend reading the comments on this one. And speaking of equality in sports, you guys, we finally have equality because the NFL is now getting dildos thrown on their field during the game. Now watch this, you guys. During the Cleveland Browns-Bengals game, there was a green thing that was thrown onto the field. But the wildest part about all this is how the ref handled it. This guy just picks it up by the you-know-what, and just chucks it off. Like, nothing to see here, folks. Nothing to see here. Now, if you remember, when it's getting thrown on the court during WNBA games, nobody would touch it. People were like, which, fair enough. I would not bare hand that thing if it got thrown at me. But you know what? I'm just glad that the men are getting a taste of their own medicine, because I always heard that this was strictly a women thing and these things were thrown on the court just to put women down. Now they're putting the men down. Lastly, you guys, this video is getting super long. I'm going to wrap this up, but I'm going to answer some of your questions. I got a ton of questions asking, do you see yourself working as a WNBA analyst on TV? Or Rachel, with all your experience, why aren't you trying to work for ESPN or an organization like that? If you guys didn't know, Courtside Club was actually on ESPN for season 1 of the show. We had a lot of creative differences at ESPN. Like, it wasn't the perfect partnership. And since I've gone independent with the show, it's actually done way better than it was doing on ESPN. So I don't know, like I've had plenty of meetings. I've done plenty of network things. When I was doing my last sideline job, that was sideline for CBS. Honestly, to be fully transparent, if I do network television, it just has to make sense. A sideline role for me, a lot of times also sideline, you really don't get paid that much. Compared to other things that I do, like sideline really doesn't pay that well, and it's pretty demanding. It's a lot of travel. And so I don't necessarily see myself doing traditional sideline. Anthony said, if the CBA fails and there's no 2026 season, what will you report on? A sub from Down Under. So if the CBA fails and there's no 2026 season, which unfortunately it's kind of looking like the season's at least going to be stalled, but we'll have to see. I will continue covering college basketball like we did last season. I do want to cover more NBA, and I don't know your guys' temperature on that, but I love the NBA. I work a lot with them. It's a league that I've been covering for the past decade in itself. So I would love to do more NBA coverage. I'll try to get some more interviews in the mix as well. But if you guys have suggestions or other things that you're interested in, also let me know in the comments. CTA France said, why oh why did you spoil the dreams of so many guys by getting married? The lore behind this, you guys, is I lost so many followers on Instagram after I posted my wedding pictures, or some of my wedding pictures. So if you guys are feeling charitable and want to go follow me on my personal Instagram account, I used to be over 1 million followers. Now I've dropped far below that. I think the first time I posted my wedding, I lost like almost 12,000 followers in one day, and it just continues to drop. So I guess I crushed the dreams of a lot of people. It's a little bizarre. It's fine. Like, I'm not that worried about it. If people are leaving because I got married, then they clearly don't care about me to begin with. I don't know if they just wanted me to be single for life. But anyway, I guess I spoiled a lot of dreams and lost a lot of followers. And lastly, hey, Rachel, what do you mean by ooey and ah every time you end your podcast? So I have gotten this question. I have cat fur on my mic. I have gotten this question so many times. I've explained it so many times, but I will do it once more in this video, and hopefully that clears up everything. So ooey and ah was a phrase that I learned when Dre was playing for Strong Group, which is a team that represents the Philippines. He's played with them in 2 different tournaments, and I went to watch some of his games, and during the game I would hear the Filipino fans, they would be chanting ooey and ah, ooey and ah. And I asked somebody, I was like, what is that? I like it. It's pretty cool. It was every time the team was winning. And they said, oh, it basically means it's time to go home. So it's kind of like when you're in America and your team is winning and you're like, na, 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 hey, 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 goodbye. You know, it's like when you feel like your team already won. Anyway, I loved it. I thought it was really cool. I chimed in on the chants. I posted some of the clips on my social media. They picked up some steam. But also, you guys, like, they love basketball in the Philippines. The Filipino fans are amazing, like so much love. And so I just feel like there's a little tie there. I've always thought it was a really cool phrase. And so I use it at the end of my videos now. But with that, you guys, I have talked for far too long. This has been a really long one, but I wanted to give you some good content because tomorrow I'm having emergency wisdom teeth removal. So that's really fun. And I'm not sure how long I'll be out of commission. I promise you I will be back as soon as I possibly can to filming videos again, but obviously I have to make sure I take care of my health first. So that's happening tomorrow. Wish me luck. But yeah, that's happening tomorrow. I will be back as soon as I possibly can, and hopefully by playoffs, because I believe that they start Sunday. So we got to get healing. We got to get healing really quick. But I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Click that little subscribe button because we upload new videos every single week, both long and short videos. And with that, you guys, I'll see you next time. Ooey and ah.